Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Michael Maney begins now.
A Tasmanian man has been charged with attempted murder of 3 emergency services personnel following an incident at a home in Forest yesterday. Samuel Kevin McGlone appeared in the Devonport Magistrates Court today. Melinda Ogden was there.
The 33-year-old Forest man appeared via video link in the Devonport Magistrates Court this afternoon. He's been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder, arson and family violence offences. The attempted murder charges relate to the accused allegedly trying to kill emergency responders who attended the scene in relation to a fire inside the home. The court was earlier told police attended the address in question after responding to a notification from an electronic device. Fire services also attended to put out a fire. Prosecutors told the court McGlone was in breach of his bail conditions in terms of a family violence order, and that he had also breached his bail in relation to charges in the Supreme Court. Those matters will be heard in the Supreme Court on Monday. McGlone will face Devonport Magistrates Court in relation to yesterday's incident at Forest on July 19th.
The emergency department at the Royal Hobart Hospital has been deemed not fit for purpose, with questions looming over how much funding the state government is willing to provide for upgrades. Health unions say the current state of the ED is causing major distress to staff and patients.
It's designed to accept around 45,000 patients every year, but the number of those visiting the emergency department at the Royal Hobart Hospital is now double that.
The current emergency department is really not fit for purpose, and it is a very hectic and chaotic environment.
An independent review commissioned by the Health Department last year called for $149 million for Stage 2 upgrades, a call which was backed by a parliamentary committee. The government has opted for something different.
There were options provided. We have chosen the $130 million option, and that is the one we have funded and are committed to.
What they're looking at doing is making cuts and arrangements to get in within budget.
Labor says the department is the sickest it's ever been, while the Greens are calling it another shocking failure in the state's health crisis.
We know that our health system is in crisis and that instead of cutting back on funding, we should be investing more.
But there seems to be no budging in sight.
We have not deviated 1 inch from our commitment to that project.
This is nonsense. The government needs to get on with it and get on with the Royal Hobart Hospital redevelopment.
With recent staffing cuts and now this potential cut to infrastructure spending, unions and medical staff are increasingly concerned, making for plenty of interest when the government delivers its budget in September. Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
Opponents of the Macquarie Point Stadium have released competing renders of what the structure could look like from Hobart's waterfronts, with concerns the size will have a huge impact on the city's urban heritage. Standing at 54 metres high, it is 25% higher than the original proposal.
A building that's 54 metres high and 230 metres long on that site next to this beautiful little city is just the wrong place at the wrong time.
Cox Architecture says without access to current design information, any renders produced will be purely speculative and imprecise. A march through Hobart streets by the Tasmanian Aboriginal community today in a powerful show of their pride and heritage for NAIDOC Week. They're demanding the state government agrees to a treaty that they say will give them a voice.
Beside the symbol of the world's oldest culture, Tasmanian Aboriginals and their supporters marching the streets of Hobart, celebrating their heritage but hoping for a new tradition of respect.
Have our say over how our community uses our land, and the ability to freely practice our culture is vital to our right of self-determination.
The march leading them outside Parliament, fighting for the protection of their culture and defending their rights, lands and identities.
We continue to demand justice and reclaim what has been unjustly and violently taken from us.
Tired of broken promises and false hope, they're demanding the government deliver for Aboriginal communities across Tasmania.
raising our hopes through promises about a treaty. We're ready to make a treaty.
A next generation of Aboriginal voices are now ready to lead the charge, following in the footsteps of their elders.
It's so important that the young people are here to learn that because they're our future and they're the ones that are going to lead us forward.
This year's theme, Keep the Fire Burning, Black, Loud and Proud, echoed by emerging leaders.
If we don't grab a hold of that fire while it's burning, then, it will go out because we are them next leaders within our community.
There's some political backing.
This is such a significant issue, it should only be in the hands of the leader.
The Tasmanian government say it's committed to its approach to truth-telling and treaty, working in partnership with Tasmanian Aboriginal people. Rebecca Gaidaneris, 7 Tasmania News.
A group of elderly residents living in a Tasmanian caravan park are calling for urgent law reform, fearing they'll be about to be evicted from their homes after a long-running dispute with park management.
Despite its pristine spot on the Tamar River, lately life at the Beauty Point Caravan Park has been anything but a dream.
If they want 60 or more elderly pensioners, vulnerable people on the streets looking for emergency accommodation, that could be happening in 28 days.
These residents have paid up to 6 figures for their relocatable homes in the park, plus weekly rent for the sites. Now they say new park rules coming into force tomorrow give management the right to evict them without cause.
Summed up by saying, you will do what I say when I say, and I don't have to give an explanation.
It's adding fresh fuel to calls for laws to protect the rights of people living under similar arrangements across the state.
The rest of Australia has legislation that provides protections for residents of caravan parks. The government have been aware of this situation for a long time.
Beauty Point management insists that residents are only on 14-day rolling leases and that it's always reserved the right to ask people to leave if their behaviour is unacceptable. With few rights, the uncertainty is stressful for those whose life savings are tied up in these structures.
We're talking about an elderly, vulnerable, at-risk group of people. It's a dreadful situation, and certainly the Beauty Point community really feels for these residents because they're an integral part of our community.
The government telling us it's working to strike a balance and a discussion paper on the issue is being prepared. Until then, residents fear a costly legal battle may be their last hope.
So it's again going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars. So we really do need the members of parliament to step up.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
Red tape for new wind farms is being blamed for Tasmania's reliance on gas power as hydro generation is scaled back amidst the second driest year on record. Labor burning up over figures that show more than a third of Tasmania's energy over the last month has come from Tamar Valley Power Station and interstate.
We need more on-island generation in Tasmania. Our economy has grown and we need more power, and we need an approvals pathway that's fit for purpose. That's why we're introducing our REAP legislation.
At 2:30 this afternoon, a quarter of Tasmania's energy was coming from gas generation, the rest from hydro and wind. That compares to 65% of the national grid being powered by coal. A plan is being hatched to attract more major events to the state's north while safeguarding the future of current cultural mainstays. Government and industry coming together to design a culture and festivals infrastructure plan.
We know the economic impact that festivals and events has on the community, but it's more than just the economy. It is well-being, and it's also a sense of place and a sense of community.
It will complement a similar project underway in the south. Pharmacists say Tasmania's government urgently needs to introduce tougher laws around vaping. There are concerns even more young people could take up the dangerous trend, with e-cigarettes set to be available over the counter from October.
The future of vaping potentially up in the air.
Turning pharmacies into vape shops with no medical supervision over a product that we know is highly addictive.
From October 1, any Tasmanian over the age of 18 will be able to get a vape at a pharmacy without a prescription. But some health bodies want that power to remain with GPs, fearing vapes could end up in the wrong hands.
Nicotine vaping has no evidence that it helps with the cessation of smoking.
St Luke's and Tasmania's Pharmacy Guild now pushing the state government to beef up legislation.
Tasmania already has some of the nation's toughest laws as it comes to vaping.
But experts say more can be done. 1 in 7 Tasmanians admitting to using a vape in their life, including young people.
The next conversation we need to have, and this is a serious conversation, is do there need to be further restrictions? And we're certainly open to having those discussions with the government.
We would take some advice to understand whether there is an ability or an option for us to adopt a nationally consistent law. I think that
pharmacies offering e-cigarettes need to be properly licensed now, and from October they will have a choice of whether to sell them or not. Many national retailers already stating that they won't stock vapes.
We don't have the workforce to be able to do the things that we do every day to support the health of Tasmanians to implement this policy.
As the fight to curb the dangerous trend ramps up. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Coming off a break in the Women's Super League, Launceston United's on a mission to shut down the Kingborough Lions' powerful defence this weekend. With 5 wins and 5 losses for the season so far, consistency is something that's been eluding them.
Yeah, there's a real sense of solidarity and unity and just a refocusing within the group. So really looking to put some good results on the board.
For us is we don't want to be leaking those goals. I think that's something that we've really focused on.
In the men's, the Devonport City Strikers will face off against the Glenorchy Knights, with Clarence taking on Riverside tomorrow. Nathan Ellis is back in Tassie, ready and raring for his second season at the helm of the Cane Train. He's had an ideal lead-in, playing the IPL and the T20 World Cup. The experience of rubbing shoulders with the world's best in the Caribbean is something the 29-year-old won't soon forget.
It's an honour to play alongside those guys and sort of try and take what I can from all of their preparations and how they go about it.
Meanwhile, the full BBL schedule has now been released. Launceston missing out on hosting duties as UTAS is upgraded. The first of 5 home matches is round 2 against the Scorchers at Blunston on December 21. And it's been a tough day for the Tassie basketballers in quarterfinals at the Under-16 National Championships. Bridie McPherson high scoring for the girls with 22 points in their 91-52 loss to Queensland this afternoon. The boys also falling short against Victoria, 87-42. AJ Blizzard leading the scores there with 11 points off the bench. Luckily though, it's not over for them, Michael. They both get to play classification matches tomorrow.
That's good. Thanks for that, Nick. Well, Peter Murphy will join us after the break with the weekend weather forecast.
Good evening. Hobart and Burnie 15 on Friday, Launceston 13 and Devonport 14 degrees. Bushy Park the top today with 16. Low Head, St Helens, Strawn and King Island all 14. Flinders Island and Friendly Beaches 13 degrees. The tail end of the rain cloud from last night cleared the east coast today. 36 millimetres fell to 9 a.m. at Pine Tree Rivulet. That's 14 kilometres north of Lyawini on the Great Lake. Another narrow band of cloud is to our west and a big pool of cold air is waiting to come through behind that. Some high cloud pushed over southern WA. Tomorrow, a low over the northern Tasman Sea deepens as we find a ridge of high pressure heading our way from the system to our west. West-southwesterly winds at 25 knots, easing to 10 to 20 knots before tending southerly later. An increase to 30 knots expected over the northeast later in the day as well. Strong wind warning, that's for waters from Flinders Island to St Helens Point and from southeast Cape to Low Rocky Point. The weekend for Hobart, partly cloudy, at least for Saturday, 11 degrees, 9 for Medina, a shower, partly cloudy for Oatlands, a top of 9 as well. Launceston 12 and partly cloudy, 12 for Devonport, a possible snow shower for Lyawini, -2 to 4 the temperature range. 12 for Burnie, a shower for Strawn and 11, the same for Marrawar. St Helens tomorrow a high of 13 degrees and partly cloudy, Swansea 12, just 11 at Orford. A cold frosty start to Sunday along with showers. They'll extend statewide, temperatures just into double figures. Rain as well on Monday with some heavy falls expected over the south and east, and on Tuesday those showers should ease in the afternoon, windy conditions through Bass Strait. Sunny in Perth tomorrow, showers developing in Adelaide and increasing over Melbourne. A morning shower forecast for Sydney, sunny weather for Brisbane and Darwin. Clear currently in Hobart, it's 9, 8 degrees in Launceston, 10 right now in Devonport. Looks like we're both wearing our Hawthorn ties tonight, Michael. You'd be pretty happy about the way they're going at UTAS, 3 out of 3 tomorrow maybe?
Let's hope they can do it, Murph, but Freo's in pretty good form. Thank you for that. Well, that's all your news for now. We'll be back with updates a little later on. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Good night.